The morning sun poured over the busy streets of Los Angeles, spreading a golden warmth that made everything look alive. It was one of those perfect days when the sky looked painted, a soft blue with small white clouds drifting lazily above. The city was awake early, filled with noise, laughter, and excitement. Down in the heart of the city, the downtown plaza buzzed with energy. There were colorful banners, big speakers playing cheerful music, and long tables stacked with snacks and drinks. Families were walking around, children holding balloons and volunteers wearing bright shirts that said Charity for Kids. It was a big event, a fundraiser for children's hospitals, and it was going to be a day to remember. Among the crowd was a young girl named Lily. She couldn't have been older than 8 or 9, with wide, curious eyes and a smile that lit up her face. She held her mother's hand tightly, bouncing on her toes as they moved through the crowd. Lily had been talking about this day for weeks. She loved watching movies and wrestling shows, and when she heard that both Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena would be there, she could hardly sleep the night before. Her mother laughed softly as Lily kept looking around, searching every corner like she might spot her heroes any second. "They'll be here soon," her mother said. "Be patient." "I know," Lily said excitedly. "But what if I miss them?" "You won't," her mother promised. The event organizers had set up a big stage near the center of the plaza. Behind it, a huge poster showed smiling children and the words "Hope for Little Hearts." It was a fundraiser, but also a celebration, a reminder of kindness, strength, and the power of people coming together. The Rock and John Cena were scheduled to appear later that afternoon, but the crowd was already massive. People were lined up along the barricades, holding cameras and signs. A group of teenagers wore shirts with The Rock's famous eyebrow design. Another group held up posters that read, "Never give up," John Cena's trademark phrase. The air was filled with laughter and the smell of food trucks parked along the street. There was one selling popcorn, another making fresh lemonade, and a few with grilled sandwiches and burgers sizzling on the grill. The sound of children laughing mixed with music from the speakers, a song about hope and dreams. Lily's mother found a small spot near the fountain where they could sit for a while. Lily crouched beside the water, watching the sunlight dance on its surface. The sound of the splashing fountain made everything feel calm for a moment. But Lily wasn't calm. She was too excited. She looked around again, scanning the crowd, half expecting to see a tall figure in sunglasses or a familiar smile that she had seen so many times on TV. When she saw someone wearing a shirt with The Rock's face on it, she gasped and pointed. "Look, maybe he's here already." Her mother laughed again. "That's just a shirt, sweetheart." Lily pouted a little but kept her eyes moving. She didn't want to miss a thing. Nearby, a group of kids her age were gathered around a balloon artist who was twisting colorful balloons into animals. She ran over and asked for a balloon shaped like a dog. The man smiled and made one for her, bright blue with floppy ears. She thanked him and ran back to her mother, proudly showing it off. "You know," her mother said, "when I was your age, I didn't get to see movie stars or wrestlers up close." "You're lucky," Lily grinned. "When I grow up, I'm going to meet all of them." The hours passed quickly. The plaza grew even more crowded as more families arrived. Security guards moved through the area, checking barriers and keeping the walkways clear. The volunteers handed out water bottles and small flags that said, "Thank you for helping." Then a sudden cheer rippled through the crowd. People began to turn their heads, whispering and pointing. Something was happening near the stage. Lily's heart jumped. "Mom, I think they're here." Her mother stood, trying to see over the crowd. "Maybe," she said. "Hold my hand." But Lily couldn't help herself. She took a few steps forward, stretching on her tiptoes to see what was going on. The sound of cheering grew louder, and then the music changed. The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen," the voice said, "please welcome 2 of the biggest stars, here to support our children's charity, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena." The crowd exploded with applause and screams. Phones shot into the air as people tried to record the moment. Lily's eyes went wide and her jaw dropped. She could see them walking onto the stage, The Rock, tall and smiling, waving to the crowd, and John Cena right beside him, clapping his hands and grinning as fans cheered his name. It was like a dream. "They're real," Lily whispered, unable to believe it. "They're actually real." Her mother smiled and held her close. "See? Told you we wouldn't miss them." The Rock took the microphone first. His voice was deep and friendly. "Wow," he said, looking around. "What an amazing crowd. Thank you all for being here today. This is what it's all about. Helping kids, giving back, and spreading love." The crowd cheered again. John Cena followed with a big smile, saying, "You guys are incredible. Every dollar raised here today is going to make a real difference in the lives of children who need it. So thank you for being heroes too." Lily's face was glowing. She squeezed her mother's hand and whispered, "I want to help kids like that too one day." "You already are," her mother said softly, "just by being here." As the speeches continued, the two stars invited some kids from the crowd to come up and talk about what kindness meant to them. Lily listened carefully, her heart full of joy. Everything felt perfect, like a moment that would stay in her memory forever. But life has a way of changing in a heartbeat. Down the street, where the food trucks were parked, something was wrong. One of the trucks had started to move. It was slow at first, just a small roll backward that no one noticed right away. The driver had stepped out to grab something, thinking the brake was on. But it wasn't. The street sloped gently downward, leading straight toward the crowded plaza. At first, a few people glanced at it, thinking the truck would stop. But it didn't. The wheels began to pick up speed, the metal creaking loudly as it rolled faster and faster. Someone shouted, "Hey, the truck!" In seconds, the sound of laughter turned to panic. People began to scream and scatter as the heavy vehicle gained momentum, heading straight for the edge of the plaza where dozens of families stood. Drinks spilled, chairs fell, and the cheerful music was suddenly drowned out by chaos. Up on the stage, The Rock and John Cena stopped mid-sentence, both turning their heads toward the noise. Their eyes locked on the truck, now racing uncontrollably toward the crowd. Among the people in danger was Lily. She had wandered a few steps away from her mother, holding her blue balloon, still smiling, not realizing what was happening. Her mother turned and saw the truck coming, and her heart nearly stopped. "Lily, move," she screamed, running forward. But Lily froze. The sight of the giant truck roaring toward her left her paralyzed with fear. Her balloon slipped from her hand and floated upward as the screams grew louder. Her mother pushed through the crowd, but there were too many people in the way. The Rock jumped from the stage in an instant, his boots hitting the ground hard as he sprinted toward the girl. John Cena followed right behind him, shouting for people to move, "Clear the way." "Move, move!" Cena yelled, waving his arms. Everything seemed to happen at once. The truck rumbling closer, people pulling each other aside, and The Rock running faster than anyone thought possible. He reached Lily just as the front of the truck broke through the barrier. He grabbed her, lifting her off the ground and rolling out of the way in one powerful motion. Cena and a few security guards rushed toward the side of the truck, trying to stop it. Cena threw his shoulder into the driver's side door, pushing with everything he had until the truck slowed. The crowd was still buzzing after what had just happened. Some people were clapping, some were crying, and others just stood in shock, still trying to understand what they had witnessed. 1 minute, everyone had been cheering and smiling, and the next, a truck had come rolling toward them like something out of a nightmare. But now the danger had passed. The air felt strange, quiet but heavy, as everyone slowly started to breathe again. The young girl, Lily, was still clinging to her mother's side, her little arms wrapped tight around her waist. Her mother was shaking too, but she kept whispering, "It's okay now. You're safe. You're safe." The Rock and John Cena were standing a few steps away, both catching their breath. They looked calm, but their faces showed how serious the moment had been. The Rock wiped a bit of dust from his shirt and gave a small nod to Cena. Cena nodded back. No words, just understanding. The paramedics arrived soon after. One of them crouched beside Lily and asked gently, "Sweetheart, are you hurt anywhere?" Lily shook her head, her voice small. "I'm okay," her mother added softly. "She's just scared." "We both are." The paramedic smiled kindly. "That's normal. You're very brave, both of you." The Rock bent down beside Lily, his huge frame making her look even smaller. "You did good," he said with a warm smile. "You stood strong." Lily looked up at him with big, tearful eyes. I thought it was going to hit me." He nodded slowly. "I know, but you're safe now. And that's what matters." John Cena crouched down beside them too. "You know," he said softly, "sometimes being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means you keep standing even when you are scared. And that's what you did. Lily looked between the two men. She didn't know what to say, so she just whispered, "Thank you." They both smiled, and Cena gently gave her a thumbs up. "You're welcome, kiddo." A few reporters had already started gathering near the edge of the crowd. They were asking questions, snapping photos, but security tried to keep them back. People were emotional. Some were hugging each other, some were calling loved ones to say they were okay. The event that was meant to celebrate kindness had turned into a real story of it. After making sure everyone was safe, the Rock and John Cena walked over to talk to the event organizers. They didn't act like heroes. They didn't brag or take attention. They just wanted to make sure everything was under control. The event manager, a middle-aged man with a clipboard and tears still in his eyes, shook both their hands. "I don't even know how to thank you," he said, his voice trembling. "You saved that little girl's life." The Rock shook his head. "We just did what anyone should do," he said quietly. "That little one deserved a chance to keep smiling." Cena added, "Let's just make sure she and her mom get whatever help they need today." Meanwhile, Lily's mother was sitting on a bench nearby, holding Lily close as paramedics checked them over one last time. Her hands were still trembling. The sound of sirens in the distance made her flinch a little. "I thought I was going to lose you," she whispered, brushing hair from Lily's forehead. Lily leaned against her, silent for a while, then asked softly, "Why did they help me, Mom? They don't even know me." Her mother smiled faintly, eyes glassy with tears. "Because good people help, sweetheart. That's what makes them special." Lily nodded, looking down at her hands. Her blue balloon, the one she had dropped, was gone now, floating somewhere high above the city. But she didn't feel sad about it anymore. She felt grateful. When things had calmed down, one of the volunteers came over with 2 small cups of lemonade. "For you both," she said kindly. "You've had a big day." Lily smiled politely and took a sip. The cool drink helped calm her nerves. She looked around. People were talking again, the crowd was moving, but the energy was different now. More gentle, more human. Then she noticed The Rock and John Cena walking back toward the stage. They waved at the crowd, smiling again, trying to bring the lightness back. People cheered, some chanting their names. But when The Rock reached the microphone, his voice was softer than before. "Before we go on," he said, "I just want to say thank you to everyone who stayed calm, helped each other, and looked out for the people around you. What we saw today wasn't just scary. It was also a reminder." He paused, looking around the crowd. "It's a reminder that life can change in 1 second. And when it does, we don't think about fame or money or anything else. We think about people, about helping. That's what being strong really means." The crowd clapped. Some people were wiping tears from their faces. Cena stepped up beside him and added, "We came here today to support kids, to spread kindness. What happened reminded all of us that heroes come in all sizes. That little girl, she stayed brave. Her mom never gave up trying to reach her. The people who helped slow down that truck, and they're heroes too." The crowd cheered again, this time with more feeling. It wasn't just excitement. It was gratitude. Lily and her mother stood near the front now, listening. The Rock saw them and smiled, giving Lily a small nod. She smiled shyly and waved back. After the speeches ended, the event continued in a smaller way. The music played again, and people slowly went back to enjoying the food and games. But the story of what had happened spread quickly. Strangers who had never spoken before were talking about how fast everything had changed, how lucky they were that no one was seriously hurt. One man standing near the food truck said quietly, "You don't see that kind of courage every day." Another woman replied, "It's good to know that even the people we see on screen can be real heroes off it too." Lily's mother looked down at her daughter and said, "Want to go thank them one more time?" Lily nodded eagerly. Together, they walked toward the stage where The Rock and John Cena were greeting fans. When it was their turn, The Rock knelt again so he could look Lily in the eye. "Hey there," he said with a grin. "How are you doing, champ?" "I'm okay," Lily said, smiling now. "Thank you for saving me." He shook his head gently. "You don't have to thank me. You were brave, and that's all that matters." John Cena leaned down and said, "You know, you remind me of the reason I started doing what I do. To show people that being strong isn't about muscles. It's about heart." Lily's mother spoke then, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you enough. You didn't even think, you just ran." The Rock smiled kindly. When someone's in trouble, you don't think. You just move. They took a quick picture together, Lily standing between the two of them, smiling wider than she ever had in her life. She would treasure that photo forever, not just because it had her heroes in it, but because it reminded her of the moment her life was saved, and how kindness looked when it was real. After the event ended, the crowd slowly began to leave. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky with orange and pink. The plaza looked peaceful again, almost like nothing bad had ever happened there. But for everyone who had been there, the memory would stay forever. As they walked back to their car, Lily kept looking at the photo on her mother's phone. "I can't believe it really happened," she said softly. Her mother smiled. "Sometimes life surprises us. Today was scary, but it also showed us something important." "What?" Lily asked. "That there are still good people in the world," her mother said. "People who care." That night back at home, Lily placed a small toy on her bedside table, a little wrestling figure she had owned for years. She looked at it, then whispered quietly, "Thank you." She didn't know if The Rock or John Cena would ever hear those words again, but in her heart, she hoped they would somehow feel them. The next morning, the news of what had happened at the charity event spread everywhere. Television channels showed the clip again and again, a small girl standing frozen as a truck rolled down toward her, and two famous men sprinting into action without a moment's hesitation. It was everywhere, online, on the radio, and in every headline. But while the rest of the world watched it like a story, for Lily and her mother, it was still hard to believe that it had really happened. They woke up early that day. The sunlight was pouring through the curtains, soft and golden. Lily sat up in bed and rubbed her eyes. For a moment she thought she had dreamed it all. The crowd, the noise, the danger. But then she saw the photo on her mother's phone resting on the nightstand. It was the picture they had taken with The Rock and John Cena. Lily picked up the phone carefully and looked at the photo again. She traced her finger over their smiles and whispered quietly, "They're real heroes." Her mother walked in just then, holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "Good morning, sweetheart," she said softly. "Sleep okay?" Lily nodded. "I had dreams about them. They saved me again in my dream." Her mother smiled and sat beside her. "I believe they would do it again if they had to." There was silence for a moment. Lily sipped her drink, then asked, "Mom, why were they even there?" "They didn't have to come." Her mother thought for a moment before answering. "I think they came because they care. Some people do big things in movies, but real kindness shows when the cameras aren't on. That's what makes them special." Lily nodded slowly. "I want to be like that when I grow up." Later that day, they decided to go for a walk in the park. The air was cool and calm, and the city felt peaceful again. Every few minutes, someone would stop them, a neighbor, a friend, or even a stranger, and ask, "Were you the ones from the news?" Her mother would smile politely and say, "Yes, that was us. We were just lucky." But Lily noticed how everyone looked at her differently now. Some with kindness, others with curiosity. She didn't feel famous. She just felt grateful. A few hours later, as they were sitting on a park bench, her mother's phone buzzed. She looked down and froze for a moment. It was an email from the charity event's organizers. The message said that both The Rock and John Cena had asked if they could meet Lily again, privately, to check how she was doing. Her mother read the message twice just to be sure it was real. Then she looked at Lily, who was feeding birds by the fountain. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "how would you feel about seeing them again?" Lily's eyes went wide. "You mean them?" Her mother nodded. "They asked to meet you." Lily's face lit up like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Yes, can we go right now?" Her mother laughed softly. "Not right now, tomorrow. They said they'd like to see us at the studio after their interviews." Lily jumped up from the bench and hugged her tightly. "I can't believe it. I want to thank them again. Properly this time." The next day came faster than either of them expected. The studio was on the outskirts of the city, a big building surrounded by bright lights and cameras. But the meeting wasn't meant to be public. It was quiet, just a moment between them and the 2 men who had changed their lives. When they arrived, a kind assistant guided them inside. Lily held her mother's hand tightly, her heart thumping with excitement. She could hear voices down the hallway, deep laughter, familiar and comforting. Then as they turned the corner, there they were. The Rock and John Cena were sitting at a table, talking and signing a few posters. When they saw Lily, both of them stood up immediately. "Hey there, champ," The Rock said with a big smile. "You made it." Lily grinned from ear to ear. "Hi. I can't believe I'm here again." John Cena knelt down beside her. "We told you we'd want to see you again, didn't we?" Lily giggled. "I didn't think you'd remember me." The Rock laughed softly. "Kid, you think we could ever forget the bravest girl in the world?" Her mother smiled, watching the scene quietly. She could feel the warmth in the room. Nothing about it felt like a publicity moment. It was genuine, just people connecting after something powerful. They all sat down together, and The Rock asked Lily about her favorite things. "So tell me, what do you like to do when you're not busy scaring trucks away?" Lily laughed. "I like drawing. I draw superheroes sometimes." Cena leaned closer. "Oh yeah, you draw us too?" She nodded shyly. "I did last night." Her mother pulled a folded paper from her bag. She actually brought it. The Rock gently unfolded it. The drawing showed two big figures standing in front of a small girl, holding out their hands protectively. Above them, Lily had written in big letters, "Real Heroes." For a moment, neither man said anything. The Rock looked at Cena, then at Lily, his eyes softening. "That's the best gift we've ever gotten," he said quietly. Cena smiled. "You have no idea how much this means to us." Lily grinned. "I wanted to give it to you because you helped me. I wasn't brave alone." The Rock reached over and tapped her shoulder gently. "You were the heart of that moment, kid. We just ran. You kept believing." They spent almost an hour talking, not about fame or movies or wrestling, but about life, courage, and kindness. The Rock told Lily stories about how he used to be shy as a kid, and how he learned to face scary moments one step at a time. Cena shared how even as an adult he still gets nervous before big matches or events, but he tells himself that fear means you're about to do something important. Lily listened carefully to every word. For her, these weren't just famous people. They were proof that even the strongest people could be gentle and kind. Before they left, The Rock handed her a small gift bag. "Something to remember the day," he said. Inside was a signed t-shirt, a small figurine, and a handwritten note that said, "Stay brave. Always, The Rock." Cena gave her a wristband with the words, "Never give up," printed on it. "This helped me when I was your age," he said. "Now it's yours." Lily smiled so wide it was impossible not to smile back. "Thank you so much. I'll wear it every day." When they said goodbye, The Rock knelt again and said softly, "You promise me something, okay? Whenever you feel scared or small, remember that day. Remember that being brave doesn't mean being fearless. It means standing tall even when you're shaking inside." She nodded seriously. "I promise." As they left the studio, her mother could see how much the meeting had meant to her. Lily kept touching the wristband, looking at it like it was a piece of magic. In the car, she turned to her mother and said, "Mom, I think I know what I want to do when I grow up." Her mother smiled. "What's that?" "I want to help people, like they did. I don't know how yet, but I want to." Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand. "That's a beautiful dream, and I believe you'll do it." That evening, as they walked into their home, Lily placed the gift bag on her desk. She took out the note again and read it under the lamp. The handwriting was bold but simple. "Stay brave always." She smiled and whispered, "I will." Over the next few days, life slowly returned to normal. The days after the incident passed in a strange mix of excitement and normal life. For Lily and her mother, the world seemed different now. People smiled at them on the street, recognizing her from the news footage. At school, teachers asked her how she was feeling. Friends crowded around her lunch table, asking question after question about the moment that had changed her life. At first, Lily felt overwhelmed. She had lived through something terrifying, yet the reactions from everyone made it feel even bigger than it had been. She wasn't used to being the center of attention. But slowly, as she spoke to people and relived the day, she realized she had something important to share. A lesson about bravery, kindness, and hope. One morning, a letter arrived at their home. The envelope was thick and official with a golden seal. Lily's mother opened it carefully, her fingers trembling slightly. Inside was an invitation from the city's mayor, asking Lily and her mother to attend a special ceremony honoring her courage. The letter explained that her story had inspired many people, and the mayor wanted to recognize her publicly as a symbol of bravery and hope. Lily couldn't believe it. She looked at her mother, her eyes wide. "Mom, really, me?" Her mother nodded, a small tear slipping down her cheek. "Yes, sweetheart. They want to honor you because of your courage and how you stayed brave in that scary moment." Lily hugged her tightly. I just did what anyone would do," her mother smiled. "Maybe, but it mattered, and that's why it's special." Over the next few days, reporters called and interviews were scheduled. Lily was nervous but excited. She prepared with her mother, practicing what she would say, trying to find the words that could explain her feelings. Finally, the day of the ceremony arrived. The hall was decorated with banners that read "Courage in Action" and "Heroes Among Us." Families filled the seats, many of them holding small children who looked as wide-eyed as Lily had been at the event. Cameras and reporters were set up in front, but the organizers promised this would be a ceremony about bravery, not about fame. When Lily and her mother arrived, she felt her heart racing. She held her mother's hand tightly as they walked through the crowd. People whispered her name, and she could see faces light up when they recognized her. She wasn't used to so many eyes on her, and for a moment, she felt the same fear she had felt during the truck incident. But then she remembered something The Rock had told her. Standing tall, even when you're shaking inside. She straightened her back, lifted her chin, and took a deep breath. The ceremony began with the mayor speaking. His voice was warm and strong. "Today we honor a young girl whose courage reminded us all of the power of hope, kindness, and bravery. She faced a moment that none of us could ever imagine, and through it all she remained strong." The crowd clapped, and Lily felt a mix of pride and nervousness. She looked out over the faces and saw families, reporters, and even some of the volunteers from the charity event. The feeling of being part of something bigger, something meaningful, filled her chest with warmth. When it was Lily's turn to speak, she stepped up to the microphone. Her hands trembled slightly, but she remembered the smiles of the Rock and John Cena. She imagined their voices telling her it was okay to be brave, and suddenly her fear faded. "I was very scared that day," she began, her voice soft but steady. "I didn't know what to do. But then people helped me. They ran toward me, not away, and they saved my life." She paused, looking around at the audience. "That's what courage is. It's not about being strong by yourself. It's about helping each other, and about standing tall even when you feel scared." The audience was silent for a moment, then erupted into applause. Some people were wiping tears from their eyes. Lily's mother smiled, proud and emotional, knowing her daughter had spoken not just about fear, but about hope. After the ceremony, reporters approached for interviews. One asked Lily, "Do you feel like a hero?" She thought for a moment and shook her head. "No, I was just lucky. But maybe everyone can be brave in their own way." Another reporter asked if she would ever meet The Rock or John Cena again. Lily's face lit up. "Yes. I met them after the event, and they taught me that bravery isn't just about muscles or fighting. It's about caring for others." The story spread quickly. Newspapers, television channels, and online sites shared her words. Videos of her speech went viral, not because it was dramatic, but because it was genuine. A young girl explaining what it meant to be brave and how ordinary people can be heroes too. The news even reached The Rock and John Cena. Both men were touched when they watched her speech. They remembered the fear in her eyes, the way she had frozen in front of the truck, and how she had faced the moment with the strength of a heart far older than her years. Later that week, they reached out to her mother. The message was simple. "We saw Lily's speech. She is inspiring the world. We are proud of her." Lily didn't fully understand the impact at first. She just felt happy that people were listening, that her words meant something to someone else. She began to see that courage could spread like light. It could touch people she would never meet and make a difference. School became a little different too. Teachers invited her to speak about bravery in front of classes. Kids listened carefully as she explained what had happened and what she had learned. "Being brave," she said repeatedly, "doesn't mean you aren't scared. It means you do the right thing anyway." Her friends asked endless questions about The Rock and John Cena, about the truck, about how she felt, and even though it was hard to relive the moment, she realized that telling her story helped other kids understand that courage isn't about fighting monsters or wearing capes. It's about helping each other when it matters most. One afternoon, her mother suggested they write letters to the Rock and John Cena. "They'll want to hear how you're doing," she said. Lily agreed. She carefully chose her words, telling them about the ceremony, her speech, and how inspired she felt. She explained how her classmates asked her questions, how she felt proud of standing up on the stage, and how their kindness had changed her life forever. A few days later, she received a reply from both men. The letters were short but filled with encouragement. The Rock wrote, "Keep being brave and remember that real courage comes from your heart. You are a hero to many now, Lily." John Cena wrote, "The way you spoke about fear and bravery is more inspiring than anything I've done in the ring. Never forget how special you are." Reading those words, Lily felt a warmth inside that she had never known before. She realized that bravery, kindness, and love were connected, that one act could ripple out to touch lives in ways she might never see. Over the next few weeks, Lily's story continued to spread. The local news invited her for an interview. She appeared on a morning show, smiling shyly at the camera. The hosts asked her to explain what had happened and what she had learned. She spoke with honesty and heart, repeating her lesson about bravery and helping others. People from across the country wrote letters and emails, sharing their own stories of fear, courage, and kindness. Some were children who had faced challenges at school or at home. Some were adults who had experienced emergencies or acts of kindness. Lily's simple words inspired thousands, proving that a young girl could make a difference simply by sharing her truth. The Rock and John Cena even called to check on her. Their voices were warm and friendly, making her feel at ease. They asked her about school, her speech, and how she felt seeing her story inspire so many people. Lily told them honestly that she was proud, but also a little overwhelmed. "You're doing exactly what we hoped," The Rock said. "You're showing people that heroes aren't just on screens. Heroes are real and they have hearts like yours." Cena added, "You're spreading hope, and that's stronger than any wrestling move or action scene. Don't ever forget that." For Lily, those words became a guiding light. She began to understand that her experience, terrifying as it had been, had turned into something powerful. A story that could help people feel braver, kinder, and stronger. Her mother noticed the change, too. Lily was more confident, more willing to speak up, and more aware of the people around her. She noticed little things, helping a friend who fell, comforting a classmate who was upset, sharing her lunch without being asked. Her bravery had turned into compassion. The city recognized her bravery in other ways, too. They invited her to community events, giving speeches about courage and kindness. She met other children who had faced emergencies, accidents, or challenges, and she listened to their stories with empathy and understanding. She realized that everyone had moments when they felt small and scared, and that bravery was available to anyone who chose to act despite fear. Through it all, Lily's connection with The Rock and John Cena remained. They sent small messages, reminders of encouragement, and occasionally invited her to charity events. They became not just heroes she admired, but mentors in courage and kindness. One quiet evening, Lily sat by her window, looking out at the city lights. She held the small wristband John Cena had given her tightly in her hand. She thought about the day of the accident, about the ceremony, about the speeches and the letters, and about the lives her story had touched. She realized something important, that bravery wasn't about fame or recognition. It wasn't about being on stage or having cameras follow you. It was about the choices people made in the moments that mattered most. And in that moment, she promised herself she would continue to live with courage, with kindness, and with the understanding that helping others was one of the most powerful things anyone could do. For Lily, the story was no longer just about fear. It was about hope, about real heroes, about the way one person's actions, no matter how small, could make a world of difference. And somewhere in the city, two men smiled quietly, knowing that their actions had started something much bigger than they could have imagined. But something inside both Lily and her mother had changed. The city moved on. The news stories faded, but that one moment, those few seconds of real courage, stayed with them. At school, Lily's friends asked her 1,000 questions. Did they really run that fast? Were you scared? Did they talk to you after? She laughed and answered as best as she could. Yes, they were fast. Yes, I was scared. And yes, they're really nice. Her teacher asked her to talk about the experience during morning assembly. Lily was nervous, but when she stood on stage and looked out at all the faces, she remembered The Rock's words, "Stand tall even when you're shaking inside." So she took a deep breath and began. "I was really scared that day," she said softly. "But I learned something. I learned that brave people don't always look like superheroes. Sometimes they're just people who care. I want to be like that too." When she finished, the whole hall clapped. Her teacher gave her a proud smile and said, "You've taught us something today, Lily." That night, as her mother tucked her into bed, Lily whispered, "Mom, do you think I'll ever see them again?" Her mother smiled. "Maybe, but even if you don't, they'll always be part of your story." Lily smiled sleepily. "And I'll always be part of theirs." Her mother kissed her forehead. "Yes, you will." As she turned off the light, the glow from the wristband shimmered faintly in the dark. The words "never give up" seemed to shine brighter than anything else in the room. Outside, the world moved on. Cars passed, people laughed, and city lights flickered. But inside that small house, something beautiful had taken root. Courage, kindness, and the reminder that real heroes exist not just on screens, but in the real moments when someone decides to help another person, without thinking twice. And for Lily, that lesson would stay with her forever, not as a memory of fear, but as the story of how two people showed her that bravery lives in all of us, waiting for the right moment to shine. Meanwhile, across town, both men sat together in a quiet corner of a hotel lounge. They weren't talking about fame or movies or cameras. They were talking about what had happened. "Crazy how fast things can change," Cena said, stirring his drink absent-mindedly. The Rock nodded. "Yeah, you go from a normal day to something that could have gone real bad. Makes you think about how precious life is." Cena looked thoughtful. That kid was lucky. "But you know what? We were lucky too. Lucky to be in the right place at the right time." The Rock smiled faintly. "Maybe it wasn't luck. Maybe it was supposed to happen that way." For a moment, they both sat in silence, watching the lights of the city shimmer through the window. Then The Rock chuckled softly. "You know, I've jumped off movie sets and wrestled through explosions on screen, but nothing compares to what happened today." Cena laughed. "Yeah, and no stunt team, no cameras, no second takes." They clinked glasses lightly. "To the real moments," The Rock said. "To the real ones," Cena replied. Outside, the night settled over Los Angeles, calm and quiet again. But for those who had been at the plaza, for Lily, her mother, and everyone who saw what happened, that day had changed something inside them. It reminded them that even in a world that sometimes feels too fast, too busy and too loud, there are still moments when humanity shines the brightest, and that sometimes real heroes don't wear capes. They just happen to be in the right place, with the right heart, at the right time. And somewhere, a young girl slept peacefully, dreaming of the day she met her heroes, not just on stage, but in real life. Whedon came to a stop a few feet later. The sound of metal grinding to a halt filled the air. Then there was silence, and thick, heavy silence. The Rock held Lily close, checking if she was okay. Her little hands were trembling, but she wasn't hurt. She looked up at him with wide, tearful eyes. "You're safe now," he said gently. "You're okay." Her mother reached them seconds later, crying as she hugged her daughter tightly. "Thank you," she kept repeating. "Thank you so much." People gathered around, clapping and cheering, not because they were fans this time, but because they had just witnessed something truly heroic. Cameras caught the moment, but none of it felt staged. It was raw, real, and full of heart. The Rock and John Cena didn't make a big scene about it. They just stayed by the girl and her mother, making sure they were safe. The volunteers quickly called for paramedics to check everyone. Fortunately, no one was seriously hurt. When the crowd realized everything was okay, applause broke out again, louder than before. The two men smiled modestly and waved it off, helping restore calm. For Lily, the moment felt unreal. She looked up at The Rock, her voice barely a whisper. "You saved me," he smiled softly. "Nah," he said, "you saved yourself. You just needed a little help." John Cena crouched beside her, giving her a thumbs up. "You're brave," he said. "Real brave." The crowd cheered again as the sun began to lower in the sky. What started as an ordinary charity event had turned into a real story of courage, the kind that no one could ever forget. As the paramedics checked on the truck driver, who was shaken but fine, People began to talk, some recording videos, others wiping tears from their eyes. It was a day that reminded everyone watching that true heroism doesn't always happen in movies or wrestling rings. Sometimes, it happens right in front of you when someone decides to run toward danger instead of away from it. That day, the city didn't just see two celebrities. It saw two men who proved that kindness core.